You've been running in circles, haven't you? Each day blending into the next, each moment a carbon copy of the last. The monotony has become so normalized that you've stopped questioning it entirely. But something feels different today. Something has shifted in the fabric of your reality. Can you feel it? That subtle tremor beneath the surface of your consciousness? This is a warning from the Department of Existential Risk Assessment. We've detected a dangerous pattern in your life, one that's been hiding in plain sight, a pattern so insidious that it's masqueraded as normalcy, as responsibility, as the very foundation of your existence. Take a deep breath, count to 3. Notice how your thoughts are already trying to dismiss this message. That's not your conscious mind at work. That's the pattern protecting itself. It's activating every defense mechanism it's installed over the years. What if I told you that your comfort zone isn't a safe haven, but a prison built from your own fears? A prison so subtle, so carefully constructed, that you've decorated its walls and called it home. You've hung pictures on the bars and convinced yourself they're windows. Every time you choose comfort over growth, every time you say maybe tomorrow, every time you shrink to fit others' expectations, you're adding another brick to those walls. Each compromise, each swallowed truth, each moment of self-betrayal strengthens the foundation of your confinement. Let's conduct a simple experiment. Think about the last major decision you made. Was it truly yours? Or was it the decision that caused the least disruption to your carefully constructed cage? Trace back the reasoning. Notice how much of it was actually fear disguised as wisdom. The anxiety you're feeling right now, that's not your enemy. That's your buried, authentic self, screaming to break free. It's been suffocating under layers of adaptation and compromise, and it's finally finding its voice. You see, there's an entity living in your mind. It masquerades as your protector, your voice of reason, but it's actually your jailer, feeding on your unfulfilled potential. It grows stronger with every dream you defer, every passion you dismiss as impractical. This entity has a name: systematic self-sabotage. It's the force that turns your dreams into someday plans and your passions into practical compromises. It speaks in the voice of responsibility while orchestrating your spiritual bankruptcy. Look around your life right now. Notice the comfortable routines, the safe choices, the familiar paths. They're not signs of stability. They're symptoms of surrender. Each routine is a ritual of avoidance. Each safe choice, a small death. Every time you check your phone instead of facing your thoughts, every time you choose the known over the unknown, you're feeding this entity, and it's getting stronger. It's learning your patterns, anticipating your resistance, building more sophisticated defenses. But here's where it gets interesting. The moment you stop caring about its approval, something extraordinary happens. The entity panics. Its carefully constructed control system begins to malfunction. When you cease seeking validation, when you stop explaining your choices, when you refuse to apologize for your existence, that's when the walls begin to crack. The foundation of the prison starts to crumble, and light begins to seep through. The people who've grown accustomed to your compliance will suddenly feel uneasy. They'll sense the shift in your energy, the change in your frequency. Your predictability was their comfort, and your evolution threatens their equilibrium. They'll try to pull you back into old patterns. They'll remind you of your obligations, your limitations, your past failures. These are the entity's last desperate attempts to maintain control. It will use their voices as its weapons. You've been programmed to believe that caring what others think is virtuous, that consideration for others means diminishing yourself. This is the greatest deception. True consideration recognizes that your diminishment serves no one. True compassion comes from authenticity, not from self-betrayal. Every time you silence your truth to maintain peace, you create war within yourself. The external harmony you preserve comes at the cost of internal chaos. The comfortable life you've built is a sophisticated form of self-imprisonment. Your routines are chains, your habits are bars, your fears are guards, and you've been both the architect and the prisoner of this elaborate construction. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. The prison door has always been unlocked. You've just been convinced that the outside world is more dangerous than your cell. The entity has painted terrifying scenarios of what lies beyond your comfort zone. Take a moment now. Close your eyes. Imagine the person you could become if you stopped caring about the judgments, the expectations, the imagined consequences. Feel the expansion that occurs when you remove those artificial constraints. Do you feel that surge of energy? That's not anxiety. That's power. Raw, untamed, authentic power that's been dormant within you. It's been waiting patiently for you to remember that it exists. The entity wants you to believe that this power is dangerous, that it needs to be contained. But ask yourself, dangerous to whom? To your true self, or to the prison you've built? To your growth, or to your stagnation? Every moment of discomfort you've been avoiding is a signpost pointing toward your freedom. Every difficult conversation you've been postponing is a key to unlock your potential. The path you've been afraid to walk is the only one that leads to authenticity. The voice in your head that says, "Be realistic," isn't wisdom. It's the entity's propaganda. Reality is not a fixed set of limitations. It's a canvas, waiting for your courage to paint it with bold, authentic strokes. When you stop caring about fitting in, you start expanding into your true size. When you stop seeking approval, you start approving of yourself. The energy you've been pouring into external validation becomes available for internal transformation. The panic you're witnessing in others isn't about your actions, it's about what your liberation represents, a crack in their own carefully constructed prisons. Your freedom becomes a mirror, reflecting their captivity. You see, every time someone breaks free, it forces others to question their own chains. Your authenticity becomes a mirror they're not ready to look into. Your courage exposes their cowardice. Your truth reveals their compromises. The discomfort you're feeling right now is the entity realizing it's losing control. It's throwing up smoke screens of doubt, generating false emergencies, creating chaos to distract you from the path forward. But you're already different. Just by understanding this message, you've initiated a change that cannot be undone. The seeing cannot be unseen. The awareness cannot be unawarely. The awakening has begun. Now ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped avoiding the very challenges that could set you free? What if the walls of your comfort zone are not protecting you, but containing you? What if safety is actually the most dangerous choice of all? Niccolò Machiavelli, during his exile, discovered a profound truth. When you withdraw your energy from those who exploit it, they don't simply let you go, they panic. Their entire system depends on your compliance, your predictability, your willingness to sacrifice yourself for their comfort. This isn't about manipulation. It's about reclaiming your authentic power. It's about recognizing that your energy is a resource, and you have the right to choose how it's invested. You are not obligated to fund your own oppression. Think about the relationships in your life where you're constantly compromising, the ones where you dim your light to make others comfortable. What would happen if you simply stopped? Not with aggression, not with dramatic announcements, but with quiet determination. Not with aggression, not with announcement, just a quiet, determined reclamation of your energy. A gentle but firm redirection of your life force towards your own evolution. A sovereign decision to stop funding what diminishes you. The initial response will be subtle. Confusion, discomfort. They'll sense something is changed, but won't be able to articulate what. Then comes the escalation. Emotional appeals, guilt tactics, even anger. This is the panic Machiavelli observed. When you stop being a predictable character in someone else's story, you disrupt their sense of control, and nothing terrifies the controlling entity more than a variable it cannot predict. Your unpredictability becomes their nightmare. Stand up right now. Find the nearest mirror. Look into your own eyes and say, "I see you." Notice the resistance. That's not you. It's the conditioning fighting back. It's the entity's last stand against your self-recognition. Your need for approval is not inherent. It was installed in you, layer by layer, experience by experience. until the external validation became more real than your internal compass. But installations can be uninstalled. Programs can be rewritten. Every time you chose silence over truth to keep the peace, you strengthened this programming. Every time you said yes when you meant no, you deepened the groove of this pattern. But grooves can be filled, patterns can be broken, programming can be overridden. The greatest tragedy isn't that you've been living in a cage. It's that you've been carrying the key all along. The power to unlock your prison has never left your possession. You simply forgot where you placed it. Tonight, I want you to try something. Take a piece of paper, write down one boundary you've been afraid to set, one truth you've been afraid to speak. Feel the fear rise as you write it. Notice how your hand might tremble, how your breathing might change. That fear is not a warning. It's withdrawal symptoms from the addiction to others' approval. It's your system detoxing from the drug of external validation. The discomfort means the healing has begun. When you stop caring about the judgment of those who benefit from your compliance, you'll experience a period of intense discomfort. The entity will flood your system with doubt. It will create vivid scenarios of catastrophe and abandonment. What if they leave? It will whisper. What if you end up alone? These are not rational concerns. They are the entity's desperate attempt to maintain control. They are fear-based projections, designed to keep you tethered to your cage. The people who truly belong in your life will adjust to your authenticity. Those who cannot, were they ever really there for you, or just for what you could provide them? Were they loving you, or exploiting your need to be loved? Consider how much of your energy is spent managing others' perceptions of you. Imagine redirecting that energy toward your own evolution. Picture the creative power that would be unleashed if you stopped performing and started being. The most disturbing realization is this: your life is finite. Each moment spent in artificial constraints is a moment lost forever. Time is the one resource you cannot earn back, and you've been spending it on maintaining an illusion. Close your eyes. Feel the weight of time passing, each second ticking away. This is not meant to depress you. It's meant to awaken you, to remind you that urgency is not your enemy. It's your ally in breaking free. Psychologist Carl Jung noted that what you resist persists. Your resistance to discomfort has only magnified it. Your avoidance of conflict has only ensured its continuation. The very thing you're trying to escape has become your constant companion. The entity thrives on your resistance. It grows stronger with every avoided conversation, every swallowed truth, every compromise of your essence. Your avoidance becomes its nourishment. Your fear becomes its fuel. When you finally stop caring about maintaining the illusion, something miraculous happens. The energy you've been using to hold up false walls becomes available for authentic creation. The power you've been investing in your prison becomes available for your palace. This is the secret that history's most impactful figures discovered. True power comes not from controlling others, but from refusing to be controlled. It comes from the courage to disappoint others in service of your authentic self. Take out your phone, look at your recent messages. How many represent genuine connection? How many are merely maintaining appearances? This is your life force, dispersed in digital fragments, scattered across meaningless interactions. The existential horror isn't that you're trapped, it's that you've been complicit in building your own trap, brick by brick, compromise by compromise. You've been both the prisoner and the warden, the victim and the perpetrator. But here's where the horror transforms into opportunity. If you built it, you can dismantle it. If you programmed it, you can reprogram it. If you created this prison, you have the power to create your freedom. Start with one small act of authenticity today, not tomorrow. Today, speak one truth you've been holding back. Set one boundary you've been avoiding. Take one step toward the person you're meant to become. Feel the resistance rise. Breathe through it. This discomfort is not damage. It's healing. It's the sound of your authentic self breaking through the walls of your conditioning. It's the first breath of freedom. The entity wants you to believe that your freedom will hurt others. This is perhaps its most insidious lie. Your authenticity is not a weapon, it's a gift. Your freedom is not selfish, it's generous. Your truth is not harmful, it's healing. When you stop performing and start being, you give others permission to do the same. Your liberation creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond your awareness. Your courage becomes contagious. Your authenticity becomes inspiring. The most profound form of compassion isn't self-sacrifice, it's self-actualization. Becoming your fullest self is not selfish, it's the greatest contribution you can make. The world needs your authentic self, not your diminished version. I want you to try something else now. Stand up. Take 3 steps forward. Each step represents moving away from a limitation you've accepted as truth. Feel the symbolism in your movement. Experience the physical act of progress. Feel the resistance with each step. That resistance isn't reality, it's just the entity's protest. It's the sound of your old patterns crying out as they lose their grip on your life. The panic you'll witness in others when you stop caring about their approval is actually a form of respect. They're recognizing that you're no longer an exploitable resource. They're acknowledging that you've become sovereign. Machiavelli understood that human relationships often operate on unspoken power dynamics. When you withdraw from these games, you don't lose power, you reclaim it. You stop being a player in someone else's game and start being the author of your own story. Your authentic self has been waiting patiently beneath layers of adaptation and compromise. It's been conserving energy for this very moment, the moment you decide to break free. It's been holding space for your return to yourself. The friends who only accepted the compliant version of you were never actually friends with you. They were friends with their idea of you. They were in relationship with your mask, not your face. Your authentic self intimidates them because it exposes their own inauthenticity. Take another deep breath. Feel the sensation of air filling your lungs. This simple act is a reminder. You are alive, and each breath is an opportunity to choose differently. Each inhale is a chance to draw in courage. Each exhale, a chance to release fear. The programming runs deep. The entity will continue to generate thoughts that pull you back into old patterns. The difference now is that you can see these thoughts for what they are. You can witness them without being controlled by them. When those thoughts arise, what will they think? Is this safe? Should I just keep the peace? Recognize them as the entity's desperate attempts to regain control. They're not your thoughts, they're its thoughts, using your voice. Instead of fighting these thoughts, simply observe them. Say, "I see you," and continue moving forward anyway. Acknowledgement without engagement, recognition without submission, awareness without paralysis. Here's a practice for the coming week. Each time you feel the pull to explain yourself, to justify your choices, to seek approval, pause. Ask yourself, who benefits from this explanation? Often, the answer will surprise you. Often you'll find that explanations are not offered for clarity, but for permission. And seeking permission is the entity's way of keeping you tethered. Your authentic self needs no permission to exist, no approval to be valid. The initial discomfort of authenticity is intense but temporary. The chronic pain of self-betrayal is subtle but endless. Which would you rather endure? Acute healing or chronic suffering? Temporary discomfort or permanent imprisonment? As you begin this journey, start small. The entity will try to overwhelm you with the magnitude of change required. This is a tactic to keep you paralyzed. But transformation happens one choice at a time, one moment at a time. Choose one relationship, one situation, one conversation where you'll practice authentic presence. Notice the results. Then expand gradually. Build your authenticity muscles slowly but steadily. Progress, not perfection. When others panic at your newfound boundaries, remember, their reaction is about them, not you. It's the sound of their own entities fighting to maintain the status quo. Your evolution triggers their own existential crisis. What you're doing isn't just personal evolution, it's revolutionary. Each authentic choice dismantles a piece of the collective illusion that compliance equals connection. Your freedom becomes a crack in the matrix of mass conformity. The discomfort you're feeling right now isn't the horror, it's the beginning of your liberation. The seed of transformation has been planted. It will grow with or without your conscious attention. The process has begun. This message will end, but the awakening it has triggered will continue. You'll notice things you didn't see before. Patterns will become visible. Choices will present themselves. Reality will rearrange itself around your new awareness. You may try to forget this message, to return to the comfort of your constraints, but the seeing cannot be unseen. The knowing cannot be unknown. The awareness cannot be unawarely. The cat is out of the bag. Tomorrow, you'll wake up slightly different. A question will linger in your mind. What if I stopped caring about their approval? And in that question lies the key to your freedom. The question itself is the beginning of the answer. The entity is already generating resistance to this message. It's creating doubts, distractions, reasons to dismiss these words. That's how you know you're on the right path. Resistance indicates proximity to breakthrough. What happens next is entirely up to you. But remember this, when you stop caring about their judgment, they don't just witness your freedom, they feel the possibility of their own. Your liberation becomes their invitation. And nothing is more terrifying or more liberating than that. The choice is yours. The key is in your hand. The door is waiting. The only question is, will you walk through it?